Hey, this is Joe. Decided to post a video. I was thinking of getting a flush mount scissors lift for a garage I'm building and trying to find information on the lift and what's good, what's not, how they get put in, all that stuff. It was like not out there. So I thought, well, since I'm going to be going through it, even though I don't really know what I'm doing, this will be a first time. But I did a lot of research and I asked a lot of questions and settled on a lift. I got a Stratus UT 9000. I'll show it. I got it delivered here. But it got delivered Friday. The delivery process was pretty simple. They did a good job. Look at that freaking skid that came on. A metal skid. That thing's not getting thrown away. That's definitely getting repurposed. But it did have a little damage. Saw the box was ripped open a little bit on the top, and it rubbed through the surface on the top of the lift. Once I figure out how to edit and all this stuff, I'll put a link or a picture of the lift. But this is the control panel. This one came pretty much unscathed. It's in a nice little box, pretty well packed. Up there's the buttons. So this opens up, everything in there. You got your hoses that go from this unit to the lift, and the hoses that connect the two lifts, apparently they're already on. So I guess these would get run from one to the other. But look at the stack height on that. That's fully compressed. I get a tape measure, but they say it's 5 inches. So you don't really lose a lot when you're shopping for a lift and they give you the full extend height. That's from the bottom. That's not from ground level. So if they say it goes up 72 inches and it sits down in the floor 12, you just lost 12 inches off that 72. So that's something to keep in mind. But yeah, so we're just kind of in the exploratory stage here, get this figured out. Like I said, I'm putting this in a fresh pour. It's going to go flush with the floor. It's not going to be a surface mount. And it's going to be a new pour in my garage. I got that going up over here. Here's the slab they poured that the lift itself is going to sit on. That's the base layer. The floor surface is yet to be poured. They're telling me they're gonna be drilling holes in here and putting rebar in to marry the floor surface to this pad. But they kind of sketched out where it's gonna sit. The forms have yet to be made, but they have it kind of sketched out. You can see like the little, or whatever, whether it's gonna sit. And one of my biggest things was, how am I going to get the hydraulic hose into here? And this is what we came up with. I don't know. I tried reaching out to one of the installers for Stratus. He was kind of helpful, didn't really follow through. He gave me pictures that I asked for. He said he had them. He was going to try and whatever. But anyway, whatever. Nothing you can't kind of figure out. But we notched it so that we can bring, now they say 4-inch PVC. I dry fitted these hoses through 3-inch PVC without a problem. I was concerned about the thickness and the height of the 4-inch PVC and efficiently covering it with concrete, that it would have strength and not be like a thin layer of concrete on top of my PVC. So 3-inch seems to work. I'll let you know if I run into a problem. But we're going to bring it in from the side in such a way, run it over to the wall, And at the bottom of the control panel, there's a small port. You could hog it out the way it looks. It's only a couple inches wide by 3 inches long. It's a rectangle. But anyway, kind of measured it out so we know where to bring it and stub it up so it's against the wall. It looks like at the back of the control panel, there's holes in it that you can run screws to attach it to the wall. So we're gonna want it flush up against the wall for the most part and screw it fast. But we're gonna get at this and see how we can figure this out, and I'll get back later. I'm not gonna film as we go. I'm not one of those guys. All right, so this is how we ended up with the supply line for the hydraulic hoses. Brought it up, didn't glue anything for adjustability. If you need to clock it or take that extension out. Same over here. We measured off of the wall, and I had some paint on the stones to where the opening in the bottom of the box was. So that ought to be pretty darn close. It's high right now. It can be trimmed down. Maybe that extension won't even be needed, but we wanted to make sure it was up above the concrete when it's poured. Nestled it down into the stone a little bit. We'll probably end up notching. I'm going to lay the vapor barrier over top of it because I have drainage holes drilled, one down there and one down there. And in the event that water gets into that pipe from either end, there's little drainage holes on the bottom. And I don't want on top of the vapor barrier. I want it to be able to go into the stone. So the vapor barrier is going to go lumping over top of that. And then we're just probably going to notch out the insulation to sort of straddle it. Did run string and taped it to the side a while for when we go to fish. We don't have to worry about that. We got a string in there. So yeah, that's where we're at. We're leveling out the stone right now, getting high spots, getting big, you know, the big rocks that are sticking up so it doesn't poke our vapor barrier. Next, we're going to be laying vapor barrier. That's what we're getting ready to do. So, yeah, like I said, I'll just post as we go. I'm not going to film it, you know, step by step. Not going to put you through that. So, later. Here's the actual form for the lift. Like I said, he's got rebar, fiberglass rebar coming up. Drilled 1/2-inch holes down into the concrete to put them in, because like I said, he wasn't sure where these were going to land, and he didn't want to have rebar sticking up in the way if he tried to, you know, whatever. But I don't know, he's got it out pretty good. He's got enough there, I would think. I even ran some of the grid over top of it, so that'll also kind of help marry it to the rest of it. But we tightened up the gaps a little bit from what they called for on the specs. We have the actual lift here, and we were able to actually go and measure the product that's actually going to be dropping in here. And some of the specs they gave for the foundation plan seemed pretty generous, and I wanted to look a little tight. You know, I wanted to look like it was fit in there just right. And I don't know, we'll see how it goes. Maybe we'll end up kicking ourselves. We should have done what they said. I don't know how it's gonna go, but anywho, yeah, time will tell. We got the one in so far. Now we got it figured out. We'll show you how we did it. Got an old fold up engine crane, but you have to have a ratchet strap to hold it together because it'll start pulling it apart. I mean, it'll extend it. And then we used a piece of rebar over here through the hinges. Yeah, if you have another piece of rebar, use threaded dowel. Whatever you end up using, straps. This seems to be working for us. And then once we got it in place, we put it down on a piece of pipe. And from there, we were able to shush it. I was kind of trying to pick the phone back up as we go.
Pick up the dang.
Well, okay, get it in position, and then find where my pipe got to over there. Doesn't have to be a big piece, doesn't have to be nothing too fancy. Thick piece of conduit, something. I'm trying to hold the phone while I'm working, so bear with me if it's a little wonky. Now what you do is you get it on the pipe, put it down on the pipe, take this strap off, and then what we do is we pick it up only using the back strap, but we move the crane arm as far back as we can. Pick it back up, and it kind of wants to just zip, and then from there it's a digging iron, and you're moving it in. Okay, here's kind of what we're dealing with. Got it on the pipe, took that front strap off, and gravity takes us. So that's what happens with me filming instead of helping. If I put the phone down, that probably wouldn't have happened. So I'm gonna put the phone down, but you see the idea here. Now that we got the pipe underneath there, I got a digging iron. You could actually use a digging iron as like a piece of pipe, but mine used to be a torsion bar, so there's no flat end on it. It would roll. Anyway, I'm gonna get back to work. Kind of jumped ahead a little bit, but we got them down in. The hookup was pretty self-explanatory with color-coded. The yellow line, or the line with the yellow wire tie, the only one left that wasn't color-coded had a white wire tie, but that seems to be the correct way. Brought it over. There's plenty of air line. The limit switch, that's kind of taunt to get it that far. Did free up a little bit in here. It was wire tied all the way over with these, and it made a sharp, so just cut a couple wire ties and got us a little extra slack. The only other thing we did was down here at the lines. This one here just got a 90 and came down. But this one was a bit short. Didn't quite have enough slack. So I went to the hardware store, got the proper fittings. There's a spacer. If you go with just a 90 right into here, it dives it down that the hose comes like really close to the tank. It touches the tank, it kind of flexes. So either get a 45 here, and maybe even this one could stand a 45. It's a little the way it is, but I think that'll be all right. But I put in an extender, a 90, an extender, and then the hose went right to it. If I had to do it over, I might have went with at least a 45 here. But with the extender and all that, that gave me everything I needed. There's enough slack there. But like I said, here, this one maybe could have used the 45 to come in at more of an angle. That's the only thing I really had to buy, and maybe you won't have to buy it, but where I put the hoist and the distance from the unit to the wall, I made it a little tight. Now also too, the conduit I have underneath the floor going from the control to the hoist pit, it's only 3-inch. They want you to use 4-inch. That's what they call for. 4-inch would be a little easier but I got everything through the 3-inch. Had to push, pull out to work a little bit, but I got everything through the 3-inch, and I elected to come in from the side instead of coming straight up into it. So if you look back on some of the other video when I had it before I pulled it to concrete, you see what I did. But I got everything through the 3-inch. I don't have power in the garage yet. My electrician kind of let me down. He didn't show up yesterday to finish up. He's coming Monday. So I won't be able to level it out till I have power. And it's just the way it is. I still gotta shuffle everything around, get the gaps set. And you drill the holes for the anchor pins. Once you get it where you want it, you lift it up, and then you can get to the anchor spots with it on the floor. You don't have to pre-drill the holes, what I understand. So that's yet to come. I got a hammer drill over there and a bunch of different bits. So it wasn't all that hateful. Just pay attention to the lift. I'm reluctant to tell you, but I'll tell you. This one here, when we dropped it in the floor, they had them on the pallet, one facing one way, one facing the other way. We didn't pay enough attention. We dropped it in the floor with the hose connections on that side. That kind of sucked. We had to try and pick it back up, spin it around, and drop it back down in again. So when you do go whatever, pay attention. Just pay attention to which way where the hoses are before you drop it in. I'll pick up another video once I get power out here and I get fluid in it, and we'll go through the getting her up and running process. Okay. All right, so I've had this in for a while now. I've used it a handful of times. I realized when I was editing the video together, I failed the video bleeding it out, which ended up being a little more complicated than I thought, but I got to figure it out, and I'll share with you what I did. On their website, under like frequently asked questions or whatever, Cliff explains how to bleed this guy out. And it didn't quite finish it out for me. I had to get a little creative, but if you look at the video, they have you turn this to 0, the timer. Not sure exactly what that does or what its purpose is, but go on through. You'll find it if you look. It's a video. It's the only one on there. Then they have you open the valves. So you do that, and I did it. Run it up, run the lift all the way up, and I'll show you here. I got it all bled out, and I'll show you how fast it'll go from all the way down to up. So. Now, when you get this first filled up with fluid and you're going through this, you hit the button. It took a little while for it to actually start to move, and then it would go up a little. One would go up a little bit, then the other one would start to go up and all that. That's the way it goes, but until you get the air out. But see how they're perfectly level right now together? They're going up in tandem. That's what you're shooting for. If you're going to put it up and one goes up a little faster than the other, you still got air in there. So on the video, they have you run it all the way up. Okay, you run it all the way up, and then you hit the up button a couple times, and I think that's where the timer part comes in, because I'm hitting the up button over and over and over, and nothing's happening. I think there's a delay. I'm not sure what, but when you have that to 0, you can and the lift will try and jack up. Anyway, so once you get through all that, I did what he said, and you defeat these locks. Here's the locks. Put something in there to keep it disengaged. And I would do, how did I do it? Okay, this one is furthest away from the tank. The tank's in there. So all the air, all the fluid comes in over to here like this. So I chose this one. This is what I ended up having to do to finally get all the air out after I tried what Cliff had said a couple different times. Defeat this one, okay? Leave this lock engaged. And then what I did was I'll show you another trick I did. Down here, instead of firing my compressor up just to build up enough air to trip the locks, I have this. It's an old Freon tank, and I just have it full of air, and it lets me lower it without firing my compressor up. I found that pretty handy. So anyway, so you get, what you're going to do is then you're going to hit the lower button, or you're going to hit the lock button. Okay, you hit the lock button, and what's going to happen is this one will lock, and then this one will just drop down. This one will drop down. So you get this one all the way down, and what you effectively did is you took all the air and the fluid and you moved it back over to this guy, okay? So, and some of it back, in through. You think of it like squeezing out a tube. Let this guy go all the way down and push out all its fluid, all its air, and it'll come over, get up into this one. You leave that one, I left that one down. I didn't put it back up again. Then I took this one, and you can defeat the lock, or you can, whatever, but your ultimate goal is to get this guy to go down and just like push all the fluid, all the air back into the tank. And I had the shop quiet, and I could hear the gurgling after attempt to get the air out. Hearing that gurgling was like music to my ears. And once I finally did that and pushed it all back into the tank, it's been working like a charm. Not a single problem with it. So yeah, if that helps, that'd be great, because that's really all I was looking for, is to, help people get past some of this stuff that I encountered. But yeah, I'm glad I came in from the side, because you put it down, and these guys will drop down a little bit, and I might have hit the pipe or hit the hoses. Got her lagged down in there. Oh yeah, and then one other thing, that limit switch, that guy has to come out. And that's actually, probably, now that I'm thinking about it, that's why when I hit that button, it wouldn't do anything, because the limit switch is cutting the power to the control head. But it just comes out with some Phillips screws. Pull it out, leave it off to the side, and then do your thing, with the rest of it. So I just put it up far enough to access that. That's probably the first thing you need to do. Get the lift up when you have fluid in it to where you can access that, lay it off to the side, out of the way, that it won't get damaged, and then run it all the way up. And then that's when you toggle and you hit the button a couple different times to kind of like move the air, purge the air. And then just to recap, I'm probably just being redundant, defeat this lock, run this table down. That one will go down to the latch and it'll stop, it'll stay there. Run this one all the way down, push the air and all the fluid over into this guy. And then you can defeat that lock, or you could even probably just lower it normally, let the air blow that lock, and then bring this one down. And like I said, if it's quiet in the shop, you'll probably hear it gurgle and spit the air, and that'll be pretty much it. But yeah, that tank, I think that's a pretty good idea. I'm kind of glad I came up with that. That's an old R12. I had that around from back in the day, made that, as a portable air tank to put air in, little tires like bikes. There's not enough air on something like that to fill up a car tire, but yeah, gauge, I had to kind of make some stuff to make it fit, but it's a lot handier than if my tank's empty, which it is. I don't have to sit here and fire that up and wait for it to build up just so I can use my lift. Because I got all kinds of, I don't even need to fire my compressor up. I got a air gun, air tools. Battery powered stuff. So a lot of times I can work on a car without even have to fire my air compressor up, period. So yeah, So let's see what happens here. Do I not have enough? No, I got enough air. Run it back up. All right, pop the locks. And now, of course, without a vehicle on it, it's going to take a little while for it to go down. And it takes a little while too when you're bleeding it out. You know, you just got to have your patience. But I do really like this lift. Like I said, we modified the size of the pockets, tightened them up a little bit. I'm kind of glad I did that. I could have gone just a little bit more, but you don't want to push your luck. Yeah, because if you go too small and you got to cut and trim, you know, the concrete, who wants to do that? But I did make it a little tighter. You gotta, I'm standing here holding the button, so I can't really walk over there, but I might as well. Do little cutouts here for your handle jibbies. These are nice. I only have one free hand, but if you lift it up, and then pull that jibby, as long as your finger don't get stuck. They hang down. You can leave them up, whatever, and then they're just latching themselves. But you got to leave room for those. I just used a piece of 2x4 nailed on or screwed on to the side of the form to make that. That's all that was, just a little piece of, a piece of wood to take up that room. If you look back, you can see the forms. You might want to pause it, but I can even get a tape here. And I'll show you how big I actually made these. Now, bear with, I don't have like a tripod and all this stuff, for a professional kind of thing, but there you're looking at just over 27 inches, if I'm looking at that right. 27 inches, we'll call it 28 and 5/8 something, I don't know. But doing it like that, I'll show you when I get it down. It's relatively tight. And if you look here on the sides, it looks like it's further over here than it is in the back, but this side not so much. It just might have been a little with the form. Kind of here you could see there's room on the side. I'm not like right tight up against it even after tightening it up a little bit. But we'll put it down. Oh, and also, well, here's these blocks they give you. I have 2 of the bigger blocks. I'm using them over here to hold my granddaughter's scooter up. But they give you 4 of these bigger blocks, 4 of these smaller blocks. I like this remote. You can get over here. You can get all the way over here when you're setting the lift. If you need to adjust your block, or if you want to see if you're clearing, you can run it up. You can run it down from over here. This was one of the things that persuaded me to get this particular lift. Working by yourself, something like this could really be nice, have it out of the way. And then what else? Oh, you'll see here. That's what the cabinet came in, or what the control box came in. Well, I use it for my various blocks of wood I have to, put underneath the vehicles when I lift them. You don't need this for your typical car, your unibody car or stuff like that. But my Silverado, it's nice to have some bigger stuff. The Silverado, the frame the frame is really on the inside here. And when you lift it up, the table wants to kind of, so I have some of these blocks of wood that I put out here to grab the rocker panel. Mine has actual running boards on it. I put it underneath the running board bracket to kind of keep it leveled out. But like I said, I'm satisfied. I for the price, you know, if you think about it, what it's like, that's just round around $5,300, something like that. You know, you're fishing on, you're surfing around online and you see like a hydraulic lift table, workbench sort of thing, and they're like $3,000 for, you know, just a scissor lifting workbench thing. Well, here you got something like this. I mean, really, I use it as much as a workbench as I do, you know, to lift cars. If I'm doing something, you know, I'm working on something and it's too heavy to lift up onto my workbench, put it on here. A snowblower, perfect example. My snowblower through a chain out in the driveway. Bring it in here, put it up on the lift, run her up to where I could work on it. I used it, I put a big piece of wood across the two, and I used it as a huge workbench when I painted my white pegboard. You know, so I had that big piece of wood over here. It's super handy to have. I would suggest, if you have the means and you're looking for something, the in-ground scissors lift, and this one in particular, I can't speak for the rest, but I'm happy with this. I can't really think of anything else to bring up about it. I covered most everything else. Yeah, I don't know. But then I guess don't forget to turn that timer back to, what does Cliff say, 2.5 something. Like I said, I'm not even sure exactly what it does. But, oh, and the skid, that metal skid that I'm going to repurpose, I actually have that up there. I did cut it apart. It would be too short. I was going to make a workbench out of it, and I still might. But the thing was, the legs were too short, and the way it came, I cut it apart that I could use it. Oh, it was a bugger. They did weld it pretty good, but anyway, so that's that. When you get it wired up, just make sure your electrician knows, you know, the specifications on it, the 220. It has a pretty decent cord on it. I have it, you know, still some slack there, but that's what we're dealing with. If I think of anything else, I'll let you know. I didn't really post any links. I'm not exactly sure how to do that. I think you're capable of figuring that out. Just Google Stratus. They do make the same lift in different weight capacities. I went for the 9,000 pound. They have an 1,100. I have a 1,000. A couple different ones as a scissors lift, but that would be your personal preference. But the delivery was fine. I had construction going on. They had a forklift out here. Well, actually, it was a skid loader with a skid steer with a forklift attachment on it. So they were able to get it off for me. And that's kind of stuff is all going to be up to the individual, how you work that stuff out. But there you go.